Hello and welcome to the Raptors Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. I'm your host, Will Lou. A reminder, we're streaming live on Sportsnet's YouTube channel and airing live on Sportsnet 360, Monday to Friday between 1 and 3 p.m. I'm joined by producer and co-host Alex Wong. Happy hump day. I'm going to beat you to it. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Give me the soccer ball. I feel like holding the soccer ball today.
Well, I mean, when you were playing goalie, you weren't holding it.
Oh, yes. There was
You're
one
picking
time.
it out the net.
There was one time I gave up 7 goals playing backup goalie for the Score FC, and Will was there to witness it. And the other team's goalie came out in the second half when it was 7-0 and tried to score on me.
Yeah.
That's not fair. They shot through the 5-hole. The one guy chipped it over my head.
Yeah, it chipped it over you, which, by the way, like we weren't playing like full, soccer nets. Like this was like pretty much the size of a hockey net, and somehow Alex got chipped. And if you know soccer, that should not happen.
Yeah, I haven't played sports since. I
believe you.
The only athletic thing I've done since was go to the park with you.
Yeah,
and work on your game. How's your game, by the way? By the way, this is what happens
it's on
when
hiatus because it's snowing in
Again?
Toronto, and like it's almost May, and it's quite cold. It was also raining quite a bit. So once it stops snowing, I will be back at Ramsden Park as always.
Yeah, catch them there around 3:15 p.m. Monday to Friday.
I mean,
after the show,
it's a good chance.
Do you want to come golfing with me and Spicy Meatball, Joseph Cacharo? Do you want to take up like even just the driving range?
I'm down to go to the driving range.
Okay.
I might be down for golf too. You know what I was looking at this past weekend? So I was biking along the lake on the weekend.
Yeah, which lake? Yeah.
What do you mean which lake? Ontario.
By the way, this is the content when there's 2 off days.
Yeah.
Raptors
anyway,
play Thursday.
So I was biking along the lake, and obviously, it's a very beautiful harbor front here in Toronto.
Oh, yeah?
And I was biking past, and I stopped, to have like 4 or 5 mini oranges.
Okay, very Asian.
Exactly. Yeah. It came in one of those mesh bags that I bought for $3 at a random flower shop like nearby. Anyway, I was sitting down and I was like, you know what, this frisbee golf thing, it kind of looks like it slaps.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would like to go play frisbee golf sometime as well.
So not the real golf?
No, I actually enjoy.
What?
I quite enjoy frisbee. Yeah.
Yeah.
Salute to everyone who plays ultimate.
Yeah, former ultimate player.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I won.
Gave someone a concussion once, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I also won MVP of the team. I mean, come on, voted by my teammates.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ultimate frisbee is an Asian sport, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of Asians.
100%, man.
Yeah. By the way, welcome to the Raptors Show.
That's right. We're going to talk about the Toronto Raptors, who are halfway through the comeback of the century. I mean, we're not even joking. We say up the century for anything on this show, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no offense to Jody Meeks. We interviewed Jody Meeks, and you're like, interview of the century. Jody Meeks. This would be the real comeback of the century.
No, this would be.
Yeah.
I literally, Googled the entire century, the last 100 years. Name me a better sports comeback. 1921 Leafs or something. You know the old Leafs team came back from 3-0, right?
No,
are you aware of this?
No.
Okay.
How old are we talking about? Are we talking about the black and white banners that we see?
Might be.
Might be. I'm looking at. By the way, for people who are Leafs fans, can you explain to me how only in the Leafs arena have I seen this? Because when we're sitting up at the 600 level covering the game professionally about the Toronto Raptors, our direct sight line is we look out ahead of us and there's banners, and the Leafs might be the only franchise I've seen where 2 players have the same number jersey retired.
And who would that be?
They're both number 1s. I don't know.
Okay.
I guess they're both goalies.
Yeah, I think it's apps or app. Yeah. Anyways.
Oh, they only honor numbers. Okay, so you can word.
Yeah.
Why don't they retire numbers?
1942 Stanley Cup Finals. The Toronto Maple Leafs trailed 3-0 to the Detroit Red Wings.
You're turning 30 that year.
That's when I got my first gray hair. And here we are now. Shouts to No Cap Wednesdays.
Oh my goodness.
The Toronto Raptors practiced today.
Mm-hmm.
Want to hear some quotes?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Just,
I thought we were going to save the quotes for when we have the vet coming on.
Man, we're not rationing, man.
Okay.
I know you came in today, you said you have 4 hours of sleep. Because you're playing FIFA like a child. And
okay, all right.
Please give us a day off. We're just tired of each other. I look at him, I see a Tamagotchi. You look at me, you see gray hairs.
I mean, it's a nice new haircut, though.
I appreciate it. So Nick Nurse, cliche, said, number 1, we have nothing to lose.
Correct. I like that.
Correct or incorrect?
No,
we
it's
have
true,
nothing
man.
to lose.
It's true. It's the Suicide Squad Raptors. Does that work?
I like the we believe. So you introduced this on the React Pod, Mr.
Yes.
Pod.
Yes.
We, because you said, this is a very This is a
It's
bilingual country.
Officially a bilingual country in Canada.
So OUI, we believe.
You don't have to explain this. I mean, like,
Well,
I'm sure
I pronounce HOMME as Home Depot. So, you know.
Home Depot.
Yeah. Shouts to our producer, Derek Brandeo, 28-year-old. He's going to be off tomorrow, by the way. Programming note, we're on 10 a.m. again tomorrow.
That's right.
10 a.m. to noon. He's doing a double major in astrology and astronomy, so he's got to take the day off to go to his morning classes. Remember last time we did 10 a.m.? Last Thursday?
Oh,
we came in here.
That was a dark
I wanted
time.
to like go to space. Yeah. With the Raptors fell behind 3-0. I was in here saying the series is effectively over.
No, Joel Embiid was probably still celebrating at
with Mr. Drake.
Probably, I was going to say at Drake's house or something.
With Mr. Graham.
Yeah. Come on, man.
Yeah.
No. As you mentioned, we have to. Drake was on scene to give him the Drake curse.
Accidentally.
Well,
accidentally.
maybe on purpose as well. But no, seriously though, that show was pretty dark, and it just shows like, look, man, in the playoffs, like things flip so fast, and emotionally, you're going to swing wildly. I guess this is the whole purpose of following sports. But to your point about earlier about the greatest comebacks from down 3-0, I was going to say as a Liverpool fan, everyone knows this one.
Oh, is there one?
What do you mean, man? This was very recent too.
What is this? A really fast corner or something?
Yes.
Did I just butcher? Did I just
what?
butcher the catchphase?
You know what? Honestly, that's pretty good.
Take the corner quickly.
Yeah,
No?
corner taken quickly.
Yeah, there we go.
So
There
you
we go.
man. Second leg, coming
There
back to
we go.
Anfield.
Okay.
You need 4 goals to win, and Liverpool deliver with, as you mentioned, that famous play where Trent Alexander-Arnold, a genius at his craft.
Yeah, number 66.
That's right. He's wearing a Leafs jersey basically with that number. And, he takes the corner quickly, and Divock Origi, a Liverpool legend who scored once again in the Merseyside derby. I know Derek is in the back just fuming over all of this as an Everton fan.
Welcome to the Raptors Show.
Yeah, welcome to the championship. And, 4-0 over Leo Messi.
So this wouldn't even be the first time one of quote-unquote your teams has come back from 3-0.
No,
like a historic 3-0.
Yeah, and then afterwards, everyone got in the line and sang "You'll Never Walk Alone," which is like, the slogan, the song, whatever, the anthem of Liverpool, and hopefully, we'll have some sort of version of that for the Raptors.
Yeah, no, I'm glad it makes up for the Steven Gerrard slip.
Oh, come on, what's wrong with you? You're not even a soccer fan. Why you got to bring this up, man?
Nick Nurse, when asked about what he told the Raptors after they fell behind 3-0 in the series, can you guess what he told them?
No, what did he tell him?
He said, if somebody could do it, it would be us. Famous last words for the
We Believe Raptors,
for
baby.
the Philadelphia 76ers, who put out ticket sales for the second round today. Listen, I know this is just par of the, this is par for the course. This is the schedule. You got to put out tickets for the next round, but maybe wait. Maybe wait. You just lost 2 in a row. The fan base is struggling right now. Right?
Yeah. I mean,
maybe just wait. Actually, do what you want to do.
Yeah, Sixers. I was going to say, do what you want to do. Curse your team. Listen, I mean, look, I think obviously game 5 was exhilarating, and the Raptors beat them down in a way that felt really satisfying, and it feels like the series is swung firmly in our favor. I mean, it's still 3-2 for the Sixers. We still have a job done or left to do, and 2 more wins for the Raptors, and I think there's a lot of positive signs, and we'll definitely get to all of those, and we'll have lots of guests on the show today to discuss all of that. But for the most part, man, I'm feeling really confident, and I still think the pressure is not on the Raptors. Like, it's really funny, like when you go through all the coverage and everything like that. And by the way, the way sports coverage works, I think in the national or in the global sense, I think. There's only like one disaster to focus on at a time, right? So if you notice that, like, for example, ESPN coverage for basketball from large parts of the season was what's wrong with the Lakers.
Oh, yeah, that was a 6-month Titanic sinking, yeah.
Yes.
That was a disaster.
Yeah.
And then the Nets?
And Wenyen Gabriel was the 4 people just playing instruments, the quartet on the ship as they go down. That's Wenyen
Stanley
Gabriel.
Johnson, Austin Reeves. Yeah. Shouts to Stanley Johnson, but like, if he is the highlight of your season on a contending team, like things have gone terribly wrong.
Well, on the topic of Stanley Johnson, someone mentioned this, and I thought I wanted to relay this to you.
Okay.
In a 1-game series that you have to win in the playoffs and you need to bring someone off the bench, would you rather have Matisse Thybulle or Stanley Johnson? I
would rather have Will Liu, but yes, I would take Stanley Johnson. What did Matisse do in Game 5 that you can't do?
No,
seriously, I've seen you shoot corner threes. Looks the same.
Nah, bro, come on.
You're better at the finger roll. I've never seen you airball a finger roll.
Okay, all right. We don't need to do this specifically, but no, I'm serious though. Like I think
I think you have a really good point.
I mean, it's not even my point. I saw someone on Twitter said this, and I was like, that's a fair question to ask. But for the Sixers, like, okay, so the point about the national coverage is, okay, it was Lakers and everything that's going on with the Lakers all year, right?
Yep.
Then they go to the playoffs. It's everything that's going on with the Nets.
Yep.
Right. Nonstop coverage of the Nets. We saw inside the NBA slander the Nets in a way that truly feels very special, and I can't believe that gets to go on TV. We're very lucky to see that.
Yeah, we should aspire for that.
We should.
Let's not slander the Raptors, though. We don't need you going on a player podcast next season.
And then, well,
maybe we do.
Maybe we do.
Yeah.
But then the last thing now is
Sixers.
The slander is now moving to the Sixers.
Yeah.
And if they lose Game 6, the slander will be all over them. And if they lose Game 7, you don't understand. Like, that's going to be like leading every show on Monday.
It's over.
You don't understand. If they blow the 3-0 lead, I know people think I'm joking.
Yeah.
You got to shut the playoffs down for a week just for the discourse to happen. Like, legit, if the Raptors advance and they win, again, not trying to get ahead of ourselves, Game 6 is going to be tough. But if they advance, like, you can't just fly to Miami on Monday and start a series. Like, that, no, man. Like, if you accomplish something as great as coming back from 3-0 at a regular, again, civilian, shouts to the civilian, like a civilian job, I think you would get 2 weeks off. I think you would get a bonus. I think you would have to celebrate.
Yeah, I mean,
you can't just go back to work on a Monday.
Oh, yeah, I mean, look, listen, if the Sixers blow a 3-0 lead when they have home court advantage, where they have multiple players injured for the Raptors, when they have, multiple stars on their prime and 3 max contracts on the team, and, Doc Rivers, top 75, top 15 coach of all time, my bad. Top 75 might be more accurate, but top 15.
Is he even top 15 coach in the East?
Oh, come on, man.
No, let's go down the list.
Anyway, but, yeah, you might have to do essentially what happened in Game 6. So I was there the night the Raptors won the championship, and I was walking to the locker room, and it was just an incredible scene. And, there was like the thing that will always stick with me is that there was like a river of champagne and beer in the locker room. Like it was incredible. It's like everyone's shoes got ruined. Like, my New Balance from SPP got ruined.
Oh, no. There goes his $49.99.
Oh, man. That's $49.99 well spent. Like my little coat, got ruined. Everything just got ruined that day, man. Whatever,
Okay.
right? But there was like a river of champagne in that locker room. And that's always going to be my lasting memory. It was just like how much of like a ruckus it was in there. And then I was thinking about the next day, and I was like, well, no one's going to be playing at the Oracle after this. They're literally shutting the thing down. Do you think they cleaned it up, or do you think they just kept it like that, let it evaporate and demolish? Because that's what essentially would have to happen at Wells Fargo if they lose 3-0.
Oh, man. I honestly don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we've never seen a
I think
team.
I might smoke a cigar on the timeline again.
You might smoke a cigar in here. We've never seen a team blow a 3-0 lead. It's actually really exciting to think about.
Yes.
Like, forget about that.
But again, you still have to, you're only halfway through this thing, man.
Yes.
You know how silly this is going to look if they lose Game 6?
Yeah, of course. But this is the house money concept too, man.
That's true.
Like, just bask in it for a few days. It's okay.
Enjoy it.
Enjoy it.
Seriously, enjoy everything. Enjoy the small victories in life, and definitely enjoy the large victories in life.
Yeah.
Game 5 was a large victory, and if they get 2 more in this series,
that's an extra large victory, and then a double XL, man. No, I'm thinking about McDonald's right now. Show some McDonald's.
Once again, you are.
No, but this is so exciting aside from the fact that it's just the Raptors. Like, I think if you're just a basketball fan and an NBA fan, I think everyone's rooting for the Raptors to win tomorrow.
Yes.
Because you want to see that Game 7. Like, and once again, I tell the Philadelphia 76ers, like, this is a first-round matchup, like, to Joel Embiid.
Oh, by the way, so if they win this series in Game 6 or in Game 7 for the Sixers, do you feel like they even, like, feel elation? Do you feel like they feel like just relief?
No, this is what I'm saying. They already lost.
What do you think they feel?
They already lost because the fan base already knows that this team cannot go anywhere this season.
Yeah.
The expectations,
especially with Embiid's thumb the way it is. Yeah.
Exactly. And, when you have championship expectations and you have that extinguished in round 1, it's tough. Right? Because if you're a championship team, you're supposed to grow stronger as you go in the postseason. 2019 Raptors being a really good example.
Yep.
That as you moved on, they grew in confidence. Like, I don't know. Like, all the Sixers have to play for right now is to avoid being part of history. Like, that's really it.
Yes. It's just the relief of not fully choking.
Yeah. Which is...
And then you get the
ridiculous.
Heat right afterwards, which the Heat look really good, by the way. Shout out to the Heat. closing out the series. Shout out to Victor Oladipo. His story is really incredible. I know he overcame the injuries. I remember that injury very clearly because it happened against
This was
the Raptors.
in Toronto, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was like way back in like 2018 now, I think.
No, I'm happy for him. He had a huge game 5.
Or 2019, sorry. But it's just taken him so long to come back.
Yeah.
And any bit of success for him is well-deserved. And salute Victor Oladipo. And honestly, salute the Heat, man. Listen, if the Raptors don't advance past the series or
don't talk like that.
If anything happens to the Raptors and I have to hop on a bandwagon, I already told my guy YL that I'm hopping on the Heat bandwagon. I'm
okay.
Heat culture, baby. Eric Spoelstra.
Oh, man. Just in time for Asian Heritage Month? You know who else had a big game yesterday? Who the Sixers could have had? Mikal Bridges.
Oh.
Remember when they drafted and traded him?
Remember when his mom worked in the Sixers organization? And remember when because he went to Villanova too. So like he's like Philly through and through. And the Sixers literally drafted him. It was super happy. He was ecstatic. It's like imagine drafting like Delano essentially. It's a Delano moment again, right? But then we trade Delano to like Detroit. Actually, not even Detroit.
Sacramento. Sacramento.
So we trade him to like the West Coast. It's not even close for Toronto for people to visit. Like at least if you played in Detroit, people could drive down from Rexdale. It's only 3 hours. But like, no, seriously, like that. Yeah, man. I mean, Mikal Bridges was awesome. Can we have one of those games from OG?
Yeah, let's get it.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's get 19 threes tomorrow.
Okay, I'm down. Let's blow the Sixers out tomorrow.
Let's do it. Coming up on the show, like you mentioned, lots of guests. Matt Devlin will join us at 1:30. At 2, we've got Vivek Jacob. And then at 2:30, you will talk to David Thorpe. Scotty Barnes, after practice today, said he felt great mentally, physically. You know, obviously getting treatment, but, it's, no news is good news right now from
Absolutely.
Scotty.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
of course, he feels great. Mentally as well. I don't know. He just seems like obviously like it's irrational to think that someone's always going to be bright and positive. Nobody's like that in real life. But the few people in life who are like really overly bright and like just genuinely heartwarming to be around, that's every report about Scotty Barnes. Like if Scotty Barnes was having a bad day mentally, I would genuinely feel concerned, and I feel like the entire Raptors team would probably gather around for like a 15-man hug.
Yeah,
to cheer him up. Yeah,
we're gonna get that after game
he's just
7.
like living. He's like human sunshine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which player? Like, let's say it goes to game 7.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, we've had these dream scenarios before, of the game coming down to the final possession.
Yep.
Which player on the Raptors hitting the winning shot you think would hurt the most for the Sixers?
Which player hitting the game?
I'm going with Thad Young.
Oh man, when you brought up
perfect.
the fact that he was the last piece to be moved from the process and that he would be the piece that ends the process, would be truly like some like Gollum in Lord of the Rings falling into the volcano at the end, holding the ring, being the last ring bearer type of story arc. You know,
great scene.
Yeah. I saw that movie.
Yeah, shouts to the Two Towers.
So many great scenes. I'll let you pick.
Why is all your voices one or the other?
No, I don't know why my LeBron voice is my Jay-Z voice. It's your boy.
Please stop. Once again, Raptors.
The Rock is definitely
Raptors
in the building.
2 off days. But yeah, no, the Thad Young will be great when they make the Sixers documentary, Losing Time. Like they're gonna have to open. They're gonna have to open with Thad Young.
Oh man.
Like I think they're gonna have to open with Thad Young.
They're not gonna open
like an interview.
With what was the reports that like? Because remember the stories out of Philly were like terrible for a while. It was like, oh, Jahlil Okafor got into a bar fight in Boston. Oh, Jahlil Okafor was driving 110 in a 40.
You know what?
It was like, oh, Nerlens Noel rented an Airbnb and like literally, I'm not even trying to be rude about this, like, but he like defecated all over the house. Like those were the reports. And then it was like, oh, Joel Embiid is just like using people's credit cards and drinking like 5 Shirley Temples pitchers, not glasses, pitchers in the hotel rooms. Like for a while there, every story out of Philly was like that.
Yeah.
You have to, I'm not, again, you can look all these things up individually. Like it's not me trying to slander them. Like this is just me. I was like a NBA reporter, generally speaking, like at that time. So I remember writing up a lot of these stories and it was like, what is going on in that place, man? It was like a frat house.
No, think about it. So the process really started, I would say, like after the 2012-13 season. Somewhere abouts there, right?
They were like, this team could never win a championship. And I agree with you, man. You weren't going to win a championship.
Of course.
With Drew Holiday, Evan Turner, and Thad Young. But they tore it all down, and they literally haven't gone past that point in that. Honestly, we should talk to Thad Young after the series. The Raptors come back in 7. The #1 interview should be Thad Young.
Gotcha.
Get him to talk about Philadelphia.
Yeah, because if you line up side by side the Raptors team building versus the Sixers team building since 2012-13, like it's remarkable. The Raptors have won a championship. They have remade their team, have a really promising year, and on the verge of possibly coming back from 3-0 against the Sixers. Like if you just look at it as a team building exercise, Philadelphia and Toronto in the last decade.
No, we're blessed, man.
We are so blessed.
Yeah.
We got to remind ourselves of that.
Yeah.
Like more often.
Absolutely.
Anyways, Chris Boucher also talked about his chemistry with Thad Young.
Yep.
He said, quote, he told me keep cutting and he's going to find me. And that makes it a lot easier. Man, the legend of Thad Young just grows.
Oh,
like
yeah.
he is just whispering the right thing to every single player on this team. Tell me right now what he's saying to Utah Watanabe, man. Just keep going, boy.
Don't forget. Don't forget.
Stay focused.
Don't forget to rinse the rice
Yeah,
before
just stay focused.
putting it in the cooker.
Just stay focused. Just stay focused.
No. He look. Listen, man. I think putting Thad on the team has really delivered. I mean, look. I don't think you win Game 4 or Game 5 without. Well, maybe you win Game 5 without Thad. The rest of the team performed really well, but he's been awesome in his role. I think the combination of him and Chris coming off the bench has been really, really beautiful. It also helps that the Sixers are always putting first off, the Sixers help defense just in general is pretty bad. I think Tim Legler on ESPN, who was probably my favorite ESPN NBA analyst, he had a whole video about James Harden's defense, and it was only like 3 minutes, but a lot of these clips you see them and you're like, damn, they just have their back turned all the time. So if you make a cut or anything like that, like you're probably gonna back cut them. You're probably gonna get an opportunity. Now that's only half the battle. Someone's got to be able to deliver the pass. But the thing with the Sixers is they're also not applying a lot of ball pressure. Like I know the whole story of ball pressure in the series is okay. The Raptors didn't put a defender on the inbounder in Game 3, right? But like the Sixers just don't pressure the ball, so you can generally throw a lot of these passes. They're also laying off of Thad Young because most of the time it's Joel Embiid, and Embiid wants to like camp out in the lane, conserve energy when he can. So there's like all the space in front of Thad to throw whatever pass that he wants to because Embiid's not pressed up on him. And then, Chris is making a hard cut. Chris got great hands, and the connection has been really fun to watch. I think, especially, I pointed this out the show yesterday. It was just like the Raptors are facing a lot of zone off their bench. And for Thad to come in and make all these passes, that really unlocks the zone in a way that, if you're Philly and you're like, okay, we're going to play a zone defense, and all of a sudden it's like, well, what's the purpose of zone? You basically build a wall around the paint. You really force opportunities out of the paint, force them to take threes, and, the Raptors aren't really a strong three-point shooting team. If you're playing a zone defense and you keep getting dunked on you by Thad Young throwing a beautiful bounce pass to Chris Boucher cutting, that's probably very demoralizing, and you're probably going to stop playing zone eventually. And I think that's going to unlock the Raptors' offense some more. So salute to Thad Young. Also just has great advice for every person on the team.
Yeah, no, great basketball analysis. It reminded me of before the show, we were hanging out with Faisal Kamisa, and Faisal and I were just acting like casuals, being like, yeah, Raptors are due for a really good three-point shooting game. And then you interrupted and said, well, if you look at how they've been playing in transition.
Yeah, well, no, you guys were talking about like, wow, you're like, wow, the Raptors shot like 70% from 2-point range.
Right.
And it's like, but eventually we got to get the three going. And I'm like, well, the reason we shot 70% of the 3-point range is or 2-point range is because we kept getting on transition, Alex.
Right. And we cut you off.
Yeah, and you were like,
no basketball talk.
You said, go over there.
Yeah, go over there while Faisal and I recap Better Call Saul.
Go over there, you basketball nerd. Go talk about heliocentric offenses some more.
Yeah,
man.
tell me
that's probably my least favorite basketball term. I'm sorry, but
shouts to Joe Wolfon though.
Who was
like
the first basketball? Who was the first hooper to say heliocentric?
I don't know.
I just want to know.
Malleable is another. We got to draft the all-time basketball words. By the way, desperately put out a tweet this morning asking people for the real-life equivalent of blowing a 3-0 lead.
Yep. This is the Alex Wong begs for
content.
Yeah, you want to fill 5 minutes on the show. So what do you have?
Appreciate everyone for
real
sending
life
it
examples of blowing a 3-0 lead.
Yeah.
Not just Barcelona.
Missing your flight after arriving 3 hours early. Someone did reply to that and said that happened to me once.
How?
And I actually want to investigate. Are you a person that arrives early at the airport or no? Do you cut it close? What's your style?
No, I'm like a very medium,
Okay.
Like a
2 hours type?
No, not 2 hours, man. An hour and a half is more than enough.
Okay.
Yeah, an hour usually is enough, to be honest.
Okay.
I mean, it depends if you got bags to check. But no, if you arrive 3 hours early and you missed a flight, I don't know what happened. But
yeah, we got to investigate that. Skype. Someone just said Skype blew a 3-0 lead.
Yeah, no, Skype really did, for real. Like, I can't believe the pandemic happened. People are like, hey, we're going to all Zoom each other. And now Zoom is like,
did you even know what Zoom was before the pandemic?
Not really.
Like, I don't think I ever even heard of Zoom.
No. And I guess, but no, Skype blew a 3-0 lead. Absolutely.
Yeah. Quitting your job after receiving a verbal offer, then finding out the position is no longer available. This has like happened. I don't know if it's 3-0. Feels like a 3-1 to me. Feels like a 3-1.
That's not your own fault, man.
Yeah.
You just got screwed there. That's not
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I feel like if you blow a 3-0 lead, you have a huge responsibility
Right.
in that, and that just seems like you got screwed.
Yeah.
So.
Friend of the program, Laura Mitchell. I actually witnessed this in person. Going to Popeyes but ordering the shrimp. You know, just going to a
Yeah.
restaurant and like, you know, it's like going to
Yeah.
McDonald's and being like, hey, you got the garden salad today?
I didn't know they had a garden salad.
No, they do, man. You can also get a Big Mac without meat, by the way.
I saw that.
Yeah, meatless.
Yeah.
So another one was going to dinner with Jay-Z instead of taking the 500K, which is my favorite one.
That's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah, Willu stands. I want to know, man. $500 or dinner with Willu?
$500? Like, come on, man. I'm worth that, right?
How much? You want 5,000? You think that's more challenging?
Yeah.
Where would this dinner be with the stands, by the way? If you had to pick one spot.
If I had to pick one spot?
Yeah.
You know, I went to Darna yesterday. Darna was really good.
Okay.
Yeah, up on Bayview,
Okay.
Davisville area. Yeah, it was really nice.
All right.
Salute to Darna. Great. I had great service there too.
Yeah, so I have a personal 3-0 story as well. This was when you don't drive, right?
No.
Like you've never gotten your driver's license?
No.
Is there a story behind that? Or?
I grew up in the city, so I didn't need to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I went for I think it's my G2 license.
Yeah.
Like I was driving in one of those cars where
Model Ts?
yeah, when they first put out the Ford. Yo, shows to
yes.
Ford.
Yes.
So I was driving one of those cars where the guy that sits next to you, whatever you call him,
You're
the
like
instructor.
Henry Ford was the original Elon Musk.
So Henry Ford was in the passenger seat, and like he's got a brake as well, because in case you're like a terrible driver, they like can brake for you. Okay.
Sure.
So I like crushed this test, and I pull back into the parking lot, and the last thing that I had to do was just do a reverse park.
Yeah, sure.
And I would have clinched it.
Yeah.
My dad was there watching, like he was waiting for me. Like I gave him a thumbs up when I pulled in. But then I just got so excited that when I backed into the thing, I almost hit the car next to me that he had to brake for me. And he just braked for me and he said, yeah, you failed. And then he just told me to get out of the car. And then it got in my head and I ended up having to take that test like 3 times.
Okay.
Yeah. No stereotype jokes though. Yeah. Every driver's different.
No,
Every driving
I don't
experience
know,
is
man.
different.
I've heard. I've never actually ridden in the car with you, but I've had lots of friends who have.
Yeah, when I drove
been in your car.
when I drove to Wonderland.
Yeah, you drove a
Yeah.
whole bunch of our friends to Wonderland.
No one's allowed to speak in the car.
And they said you were driving like 40 kilometers per hour the whole entire way. And I know a lot of that drive is like going up to 400. So.
No. So here's the problem, though.
Yeah.
Like I know that's true, but it's because I still drive in.
You also
01.
said no one can play music.
No
in the
one
car
can
so
play
you can
music.
Focus.
No one can play music when I'm changing lanes.
You're a 1-star Uber driver.
No
man.
one can change. Nobody can
This is
talk.
disgusting.
Like you can't be having conversations.
No.
And I was going 40 because I drive an 01 Civic. Even if you step
So?
on it, it goes to 60.
Drive 60 then, man.
Yo, I can't talk to you, man. You don't
We're
drive.
going to Vaughn. Like, can you go a
Nah,
little
man.
faster?
No. You got to drive safe.
Unbelievable.
You got to be safe. But anyways, that's my 3-0 story. I don't know if you've ever felt like you blew a 3-0 lead. I think you've lived a pretty blessed life. It's early for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
The 3-0 leads usually blow them in your 30s. So
Damn.
yeah, you turn 30 what? Later this year, right?
December 23rd.
Ah, I
of
can't
this
wait.
Year.
Can't wait.
Raptors are probably going to play like the Pacers or something that day. The number of times on my birthday I've had to be like 10 things on Raptors Pacers. it's unbelievable.
I don't know. 10 Things has been coming out real late these days.
Bro, can we just talk about this?
What's up?
The game ended.
Yep.
Like 11 o'clock.
Yep.
Do the hour of the React pod afterwards. Send the thing in.
Yep.
Um,
People love hearing your schedule
9
and
a.m.
complaining.
I'm on the morning show.
Yep.
Then I got to
Could say
prepare
no,
for
could
this
say
show,
no.
which is 2 hours. Then
Yep.
I got to commute here, which is an hour.
Yep.
Then after the thing, I'm like, okay, this is perfect. Now I can write the 10 things, which is ultimately when I wrote it, 3 p.m. the day after.
Yep.
And then because at 5:30, I was on the round table on Tim and Friends with Amy and Alvin.
Could say no to that too.
I'm not going to say
Could
no
carve
to
out
that.
some
Are you
time.
kidding me?
I say no to everything.
I
Anyways.
know you actually do, though.
Anyways.
So, no, I mean, listen, that was the most proper time for me to write the 10 things. And
I just know
when I
there's-
write it late, I write it like I write a super long one, more detailed. I watch more film. It's probably more informed.
You were feeling yourself last time, and you're like, man, this hits pretty hard when I write it a day later.
Yeah,
so.
no, it does.
Okay.
It does. I
New
put some
routine.
film study into it. Yeah,
Yeah, Raptors are playing soon. Don't worry. We have basketball to talk about.
I can't wait.
Matt Devlin coming up after the break.
Let's do it. Let's take that break. I'm your host, Wolu. That's Alex Wong. You've been listening to The Raptors Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. Welcome back to the Raptors Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. I'm your host, Will Lou. I continue to be joined by producer and co-host Alex Wong. And we are joined by Raptors. It says play-by-play announcer, but I'm just going to amend that. Raptors legend, Matt Devlin, on the line. My
Yes,
Raptor
sir.
media father.
Yes, sir. The director of vibes on the Raptors Show, Matt Devlin. Matty D, how are you, man?
Hey, I'm doing great. I did say, right, Will, that it was all going to be okay. And I remember specifically running into both of you. You're dedicated, passionate, loyal fans. And I could just tell when I saw you last at the arena that there was just a slight bit of concern. And now it's obviously one filled with a lot of joy, love and peace, and overflowing with positivity, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, I always say if you listen to like one episode of our show this week and then go one episode of our show last week, you would think that we're genuinely like, it's just we have to be locked up. Like, I don't know, the opinions sway so much from from week to week, but that's what the playoffs are. This is what sports are. Yeah. Once you get in the game long enough, you recognize that.
Yeah, and I think that's okay.
Yeah, totally. And that's a good thing. And that is a good thing. It is, the range of emotions are real. It's possession by possession in the playoffs, as we know. And you go up and down, and then, when you have a moment, you kind of pull back. And I'll never forget the feeling that I had leaving game one in the Eastern Conference Finals when the Raptors lost to Milwaukee. And I walked away from that arena that night and I said to myself, the Raptors are a better team. They're going to win this. And the next night, down 2-0, I walked out of there and I said, you know what? The Raptors they're the better team. Like, this thing, will turn back around at some point. And obviously it took a, double overtime, game 3 and just an unbelievable performance by Kawhi, but it did eventually turn back around. And so, those emotions are real. By the way, before we get into all that, 3-0, 2004, Boston Red Sox come from behind.
Yes.
Right. New York Yankees. And that was the first time that ever happened in a best of 7 series in baseball. And then, of course, it was the first time they went to the World Series since 1986. So there's that. And then also, I caught the beginning of your show, the Maple Leafs actually had 2 retired numbers, 5 and 6. And back in 2016, they actually went from honoring to retiring all those numbers that you watch and look at. And the New York Yankees do have the number 8 retired twice, Yogi Berra and Bill Dickey. So there is precedence for that.
Wow, Matt Devlin, stats and info, and director of vibes. Matt, you mentioned
he's doing it all, man.
Yo, he
catch him on the Blue Jays game too.
Oh man,
I'm just here to help.
So you're talking about the vibes, in 2019 when you're walking out of those games. So what were you feeling like walking out of Wells Fargo Center after Game 5 earlier this week?
Well, I thought that, and I saw this really from early on in the game, that for whatever reason, the Sixers were not emotionally and physically invested in that game. It was shocking. And the fans in that first half, and we know Philly fans, right, they were booing. And then ultimately in the second half, we talk about Doc Rivers not maybe using, Danny Green, from an offensive standpoint. Harden, they've changed the coverage, as you guys know, with that, right? Spending less, attention on him from a double standpoint, more single coverage. You get into this mode where, the Raptors got up by 12 and the fans started headed to the exits right around that 4-minute mark. What was it, 3:58-ish? And it was like, wow. But that's how the whole game felt. And I thought there was a couple of possessions that were really important when Philly got it down to 9. Pascal hunted down his shot, 17-foot jumper, knocked that down, and then Pascal came down in rhythm and nailed that 3. I thought those were really 2 huge shots as the Raptors were laboring a little bit offensively. But you walked out of there really getting a sense and feel as to Philadelphia. They know that they're in trouble, and it's going to take a lot out of them. And can they flip this switch, which to me is probably more mental right now than anything, to return to Toronto for a Game 6 when they'd been talking about a sweep, specifically Joel Embiid?
Yeah, never talk too soon. Wanted to shout you and Alvin out as well.
Take your own advice, but keep going. Anyway,
No,
keep
man.
going.
We do a daily show. I just say whatever I want.
Yeah.
Wanted to shout out you and Alvin as well. Alvin's been getting spicy in these playoffs. You know, I was
Super
listening
spicy.
to the broadcast the other night. He was saying that he's got to go out to the parking lot and change Matisse Tybal's license plate because he's not going to be able to drive out. Like,
It's like I gotta tint the windows.
yeah, we're gonna.
You gotta get the windows.
Oh man, this guy said I'm gonna pimp
Hey,
his ride.
Alvin
exhibit.
knows. He grew up in Philly. It is not an easy place to play. And if you if you show any hint of a crack, those fans are going to let you know. This is a fan base that believes that this team, needs to get to a conference finals and an NBA finals. And we know that after the first two games, and then specifically after that third game, they thought, yeah, this is it. This is the team. This is all working. And it's not. And Doc Rivers, as great as he's been throughout the course of his career, we know his playoff struggles as of late. He's, Hall of Famer. He's great. He's all those things. But he knows his job's on the line. Daryl Morey knows his job's on the line. And James Harden knows that his contract is on the line, because at 32 years of age, would you invest $200 million into James Harden? So it's this first round matchup has a lot going on for the Philadelphia 76ers, and they're starting to feel the weight of that. There's no question in my mind. How do they break through? Look, we can talk about a lot of different things, but Joel Embiid spent a lot of time hanging on that three-point line away from the bucket. The Raptors, as you know, when he got to the middle of the floor in the high post area in the first couple of games, he was having success there. He's not anymore. He has to get to the bucket. That's where he hurt the Raptors the other night. In Game 5 was deep post position, even though there were three Raptors around him. He's going to have that sort of mentality, and forget about the right thumb. It's more for me with the Sixers a mentality than anything else. I mean, we can talk about Tobias Harris, you can talk about Maxey, you can talk about Harden, you can say all the different, but Joel Embiid is an MVP candidate, and he is somebody that has been dominant, and he's got to bring that 40-point mentality. I don't know that he'll be able to do that or get to that number, but he's going to have to do that. If you are who everybody thinks that you are, right? And then the Raptors, as we know, they've countered so brilliantly, and Pascal's been, just huge. So tomorrow night's intriguing. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I would love to be, a fly in the wall in that locker room at Wells Fargo, because I think they have enough talent to come through. I mean, if you're up 3-0, you definitely have enough talent to win this series. But I want to know who is the leadership figure in that room that gets everyone together and says, okay, look, we blew it. We didn't show up really for Game 5. This was our chance. We should have closed them out. Should have closed them out in 4 as well. But we're going to get together on the same page, and everyone respects this person. They're going to say, Joel, you're going to be here. This is what we need from you. This is what we're going to need from Tyrese. This is what we need from Tobias, from James Harden, from the role players. And it's just like, who is that person? Because I know for over the years for the Raptors, like you can, again, we're not in those locker rooms, but you can envision Kyle giving that speech. You can envision Nick Nurse giving that speech. You can envision Kawhi saying, we're going to go win 2 more. We're going to go to Toronto and, or like we're going to go out in Golden State, and Nick Nurse is like, all right, we just got to get a split on the road. And Kawhi's like, nah, let's get them both. Yeah, and and people rally around that. Like, I wonder who that figure is for the Sixers, or if they don't have that figure, how that's going to affect them over the years.
Well, and let's not forget Fred VanVleet, because he's always been that, figure in the locker room for the Raptors. And, is it Danny that has 3 rings, and I think it could be. but there is a weight that Philadelphia is carrying, and it is a individual weight on Harden's shoulders. As we know, he has not been to an NBA final since leaving Oklahoma City in 2012, and that's a whole other discussion about Oklahoma City and this thought that there's some sort of organic rise, to the NBA finals, and they decided to not pay James Harden. So you have that, and the lack of success in closing out in Houston. We have the Doc Rivers, as we know, and then you have Joel Embiid and the weight that he's carrying. And those are all individual weights that now become collective. And so it's going to be interesting to see, how they emerge from this, because if they don't get through this series, we know that there's a ton of changes in Philadelphia, and they know that. And for the Raptors, as we all know, and as fans know, they believe they should be up 3-2.
Yeah.
And as much as you want to talk about Joel Embiid and his right thumb, well, the Raptors can counter with, well, how about Fred? He's clearly wasn't 100% throughout. And then, the hip strain, and now, Gary Trent Jr., and, him being sick the first two games, and look at his performance, over the course of the last three, and then Thaddeus Young, and then Scotty Barnes, right? Yeah. So the Raptors have their own thing that they can counter with, to all the people that said, oh, well, if Joel was this, or no.
Yeah.
And so, I think the Raptors are a confident bunch. I think they should be confident. And you start breaking down these numbers, as both of you do, and the Raptors have yet to shoot it well from three.
Yeah.
Right? 16 made threes the last two games. Now, what are they doing really well? They're getting back to who they are, and that is the ability to turn a team over, get out and run. We know, what the whistle was in the first two games hasn't been the same over the last three games. That certainly has helped the Toronto Raptors be more aggressive defensively, and their defense, has been sensational. And so, can the Raptors, again, with the crowd, we know what it's going to be like tomorrow, can they get this to 3-3? And if they do, watch out. Watch out Saturday at 7:00. It is going to be, you want to talk about walking into an arena that's going to have just tension. It is going to be absolutely amazing to feel what that arena is going to be like.
Oh, the Philly fans might come with batteries again.
Oh, man.
They got to make sure everyone goes through the scanner so they don't bring in batteries.
All I want this week is to hear Matt Devlin say good night, Philadelphia, on Saturday.
My God. That was so nice.
I said it the other night, and I got a couple of texts from, a couple of buddies saying, did you just do that too early? And I said, it's one of the differences of calling a game in person compared to calling it off of a monitor. Mm-hmm. There was just a feel in that arena of hopelessness. And even though there was still time on the clock, and certainly you look up there and say, okay, a team can mount a comeback, it wasn't happening. And that was the feel in that arena. It's amazing over the last two games. What is it, 21 seconds that they've held an advantage, Philadelphia? Mm-hmm. Over the last three games, they have held an advantage for a total of 10 minutes and 48 seconds, right? The Raptors have been dominant, and that place felt that in Game 5.
Yeah, absolutely. And, well, listen, I would never tell you to do your job. I have way too much respect for that, but maybe we can adjust it to goodbye, Philadelphia. You know what I'm saying? Listen, it could be a lot of things, and no one blames you for saying goodnight, Philadelphia, because that's what a lot of the fans were doing, and they were leaving early.
No, I want another Canada. This is for you, man. If they come back from 3-0.
God. Yeah, no, seriously. Matt Devlin, obviously your calls are iconic, and they're always going to ring out over all these great moments in Raptors history. Actually, you know what? On the subject of the broadcast, actually, I was having this conversation with Tim McAuliffe after doing Tim and Friends yesterday. And I was on with Amy, and I was on with Alvin, and I was like, wow, this is like a real impressive Sportsnet rookie class. You know, like I'm probably like the David Johnson of this whole scenario.
Come on,
there's
man.
a Scotty Barnes. And
You're
there's
at
a
least
Delano
Utah
Banton.
Watanabe.
Nah, Utah was undrafted, but but I was going to ask you about just about Alvin, who you've obviously seen him grow as a broadcaster this year, and I know there's been a lot of love for Alvin on the timeline, as there should be. I think he's really grown into his own, and I thought that Game 5 in Philadelphia, I think his personal experience with the city, obviously being from there, and but also the connection here with the Raptors that goes back decades. How have you seen Alvin's growth as a broadcaster this year? And are there moments after games where you dap him up, you're like, great job tonight, man?
Well, yeah, absolutely. It's been tremendous. And in fact, throughout the course of a broadcast, I'll kind of hit him up from, that's an excellent point, right? You may not say it verbally. Sometimes you do. But you just kind of give that fist bump of like, yeah, you're like hitting it right out of the ballpark, right? Because sometimes the flow of the game doesn't allow to acknowledge every fantastic point that he makes. But it is a tremendous amount of time that he has put into it. We talk about broadcasting quite a bit prior. He asks a lot of great questions. We talk about it post game. We talk about it when we're on the road. We'll meet up. Hours before a broadcast and just hang out in a hotel lobby and have a coffee and talk about it. It's just really, he brings an element, and you mentioned it. He's a former player, and there have been a lot of great stories that we talk about prior to a broadcast that we're then able to bring to the broadcast. And whether those are moments about a career high when he was with Portland, when he was, playing in Phoenix, or whether it's like on the second night of a back-to-back in Denver, or whether it's like playing in front of, the Laker he has all of this knowledge of being down 3-0 in a series against the New York Knicks that now you bring to the broadcast and you talk about it kind of before you get comfortable with it. And there is a camaraderie there. And, obviously have an immense amount of respect for Alvin as a player. He's extremely humble, and he was a great Toronto Raptor. And, I think that personality is coming out over the air, and you add, Amy to the mix, who's a, tremendous analyst and has worked so hard on her craft. Like it's really a lot of fun. And so much of it, as both of you know, are the repetitions, but it's not just about the repetitions. It's about, analyzing your repetitions, right? What's working, what doesn't work, right? And, those are things, that have all kind of come together, and it's just a lot of fun to see, and, look forward to obviously doing a lot more games with him because, the ceiling is high.
Yeah, we do have one constructive criticism about the broadcast. You haven't used any of those 15 nicknames you rejected from us and Ennis. What's going on?
Didn't
there?
hear it working 5 to 5. I'm surprised that hasn't made it on the podcast.
Yeah. What were those again?
Depot.
Oh man, let's not revisit those.
Yeah,
let's not revisit those.
Why not?
Yeah,
let's revisit. No. I think that and we've kind of talked about this before. Sometimes, you forget throughout the course of an 82-game schedule, a Tuesday night in Oklahoma City compared to, a series where it's possession by possession, where you really do dial in, and there are moments to have some fun. And, and Alvin, as we saw the other night, drops a couple of great lines, right, about Matisse Thybulle and, but yet there's truth in that. And so, at this stage of the game, it does become, in this stage of the year, it does become possession by possession. And so there's a little bit more locked in to that. So, having broken out the spice and dice, from our good friend Double E. However, you never know. If I could ever remember those 15 to 20, was it
I don't know, man.
what was it, 5 and 5 or 5 to 5?
Working 5 to 5 or something like
that's
that?
Working 5 to 5. What a way to make a living. Barely getting
schedule.
by.
Yeah.
It's all taken and no given.
No, we got one more nickname suggestion for you though, Matt.
Okay.
This comes from David Johnson.
This comes from David Johnson of the Toronto Raptors. So after Scotty Barnes won Rookie of the Year, he went to Scotty's Instagram and in his comments. So you know how like a lot of times now when a player is playing really well, people say, he's him. Like
he's
him.
that guy.
Yeah, he's that guy. He's him. So he called Scotty him Duncan. And I was thinking about it on the broadcast the other night because Scotty did hit a bank shot the other night. So if he hits a bank shot in Game 6, maybe a little him Duncan.
Can't believe we're trying this again.
Yeah, we don't give up.
Yes.
We don't give up.
No, you don't. And I'll say this. I think that we could. I think what we need to do is reconvene next preseason.
Privately.
Oh my God!
Privately,
let's
not
do
on
a
air.
production meeting.
And we can mix some of those in the preseason, and we'll see what sticks. How's that?
Yeah.
Preseason is your time to kind of, figure some things out, right? But how great is Scotty Barnes? And during the course of the season, I know people, we had fun with it, and Freddie All-Star and Scotty Roy and Pascal All NBA, and it gets it gets like, okay, Devlin, where are you going with this? But what does it do? It draws attention to the great performances that all three of those players had, right? And they continue to have with respect to making the All-Star, making hopefully an All-NBA for Pascal, because they're deserving of that, right? And so then you kind of make, like, hey, look at, shine a light on what these players are doing. And if we're not doing it, who is doing it? And, that to me, was one of the things during the course of the regular season. I look at Fred and I watch him and I'm like, yeah, he's playing like an all-star. And the same thing with Scotty Barnes. He's rookie of the year. And, obviously with Pascal, all NBA. And so all three of them have been so impressive. And then, of course, how about Precious Chua and the work that he's done this year and the growth of his game, and the list goes on and on. That is one of the things I'll just say, and I know this gets away from nicknames, but one of the things that being in professional sports for 30 years and watching this organization from a development standpoint, Nick Nurse and his coaches and what they do day in and day out, the growth of players, and when those players believe in that plan, it is really impressive. It's really impressive. And you're seeing it now. I mean, think about Precious 5 months ago to Precious today. Think about Pascal and, Fred. I mean, we know all these stories, but it is truly just a lot of fun to watch because players are reaching these potentials that, quite honestly, I'm not sure a lot of people thought that were possible.
Yeah, no, it's been amazing to watch, and hopefully the season continues on after this week. Hopefully we don't have to do our off-season nickname retreat anytime soon. Appreciate you, Matt Devlin. Still waiting to hear that 3-pointer 3 from Pacific Mall. Still need that on the broadcast.
Okay, that we can work in.
Okay.
Just text me that tomorrow.
I will text you that tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you, Matt. Always appreciated for helping us bring the vibes up, and we'll see you at the arena tomorrow.
Let's go! Yeah.
No, I'm
Game
pumped.
6.
That's right.
I'm pumped.
Man.
I'm pumped. All right. I'm your host, Willu. That's Alex Wong. You've been listening to The Raptors Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Good, bro. You're done, bro.
Welcome back to the Raptors Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. I'm your host, Will Lou. A reminder, we're streaming live on Sportsnet's YouTube channel and airing live on Sportsnet 360 Monday to Friday between 1 and 3 p.m. We continue to be joined by producer and co-host Alex Wong, and we are joined by Vivek Jacob, Big V, Raptors.com, as always, making sure that we get the segment in before Champions League soccer at 3 p.m. Eastern. Big V, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Big day for you.
Oh, huge day.
All right, that's enough, guys. Mr. Jacob, welcome to the program.
You know what? That's good producing right there.
Happy hump day. The Toronto Raptors are playing Game 6 tomorrow at 7 p.m.
Alex, I'll give you another meal voucher if you can name one player off of Villarreal.
Villarreal?
But for now, I'm sitting at home waiting to see how long it takes Will and Vivek to start talking about soccer.
Whoa,
Wow,
that's a
what a
wild
drop.
drop. Villarreal.
What a drop.
What is this? La Liga Division 2?
That is incredible.
Anyways, so Raptors just put out the latest injury report for FM Fleet is still doubtful tomorrow with a hip flexor strain. You know, V, I wanted to ask you about this because I've seen people talk about this online and even in our YouTube chat. You know, clearly because the Raptors have won their last 2 games and, you know, they did that majority without Fred on the floor. A lot of the chatter has been, you know, this team is better without Fred. You know, Fred shouldn't come back. You know, I'm willing to entertain that within the context of this series, but I also just want to kind of separate the conversation between this Fred VanVleet and the Fred VanVleet who was healthy during the season. Because if he was healthy, you know, there's no question in my mind they would be better. But what are your thoughts on, you know, Fred's absence in this series and you know, if he were to be available for Game 6 and 7, how you would approach that?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with this version of Fred VanVleet versus who we saw before the All-Star break. That was a guy who was shooting over 40% from 3, was scoring 20 points a game, 7 assists, really leading the team. We saw those stretches. Remember that Utah game where he just goes off and there's nothing they can do to stop him. Like that version of Fred VanVleet doesn't exist right now. The version right now is shooting 30% from 3. And his drives are down, right? Like before he was getting to the basket 14 times a game, kicking out. All that action was coming off of his off of the gravity that he was creating. And now that's not the case. It's down to 9 drives a game. And so the version that we're seeing now, then you throw in the defense where he's been getting blown by Maxey, by James Harden. It is a bad matchup for him. And so I think all of that put together in this series, you know, he's just not a good fit.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on this, resident nerd Will Lou?
Yeah, I mean, I think largely speaking, playoffs about matchups. And one of the nice things about having a team full of 6'9" guys is that like there are no bad matchups when you're 6'9" and not even just 6'9", the 7-foot wingspans. Yeah, every single player in the rotation that played in Game 5, outside of Gary Trent, who has a 6'9" wingspan, every single player that played for the Raptors had a 7-foot wingspan. So it's something where, you know, that interview I did with Bobby a few weeks ago, and I was talking about the 6'9" thing, and he's like, don't forget about the wingspan, right? He's like, look, it's not really about, like, you're not playing basketball with your head, bro. Like, we're not really trying to, like, head the ball. Although Matisse Thybulle should probably consider trying it once in a while, man. That guy's got
Send him to La Liga.
That guy's got to watch some Diego Jota film, man.
Oh man.
Well, if we were playing basketball with the head, you'd be an all-star.
Oh
Okay,
my
all
God.
right, bro.
Oh my God. What's
All
going
right,
on?
anyway,
Were you just
9-0
roasting
on
Will?
aggregate this year. No big deal. Anyway,
La Liga. Sorry, I just like saying that. Conte to PSG managing. So
No, but I was gonna say, it's like, forget the 6'9" thing. The Raptors have like sometimes 5-7 footers out there in terms of the wingspan, and that genuinely allows you to be matchup proof in a lot of these matchups. And I think for Fred, those are some things that ultimately will limit him in certain areas. Now, the thing is, you have to not be short-sighted because you're going to have different matchups all the time. And sometimes you're going to be chasing around small guards. Like, for example, you think the Raptors, do anything against the Warriors if nobody can chase around Steph Curry like that? You know what I'm saying? So don't be ungrateful here. Fred has carried the team for large portions of the year at the start of the season. And quite frankly, when he got burnt out, you're not expecting to, keep up with like a, really, really quick guard like Tyrese or, these bigger centers out there. But listen, I think that's why you have a team. You win together as a team, and I think that's the most important thing is you see the impact. And by the way, I know the Raptors listen as doubtful. Didn't Fred himself count himself out? Didn't he say that
Fred
he was
basically said he's out for the series?
He's like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah,
right.
so-
He's like, I'll have optimism. I'll come back next series.
Right. So this
But-
could ultimately just be a moot point in terms of discussing his role in this series.
Sure,
I just
yeah.
think a lot of times we're so quick to just like stop appreciating what a player does.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is the case in this scenario because I'm happy to say that, yes, I do believe that the Raptors, are playing their best basketball without Fred in this series, but that doesn't mean that this team is better without Fred. Those are two different
Yeah.
conversations.
You know what? Actually, I'm gonna do another one of these random food analogies.
Okay.
Okay, so having all these 6'9" forwards with a 7-foot wingspan, right? That's like having a spork. You know what a spork is,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah. So like, let's say you're on I don't know, you're out for like a picnic or whatever, and you need to pack utensils. A spork is great.
Right.
You eat a lot of food with a spork.
Versatile.
Right?
Yep.
Right. But if you have someone over at your house and you got to serve some food, are you going to serve them a spork or are you going to actually have some utensils?
Yeah,
What-
probably some Dollarama, plastic plates.
Anyway, I was just saying, like, what is Fred VanVleet's chopsticks?
Okay, so
Yeah.
he's rice, he's chopsticks.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
rebranding Fred as Asian.
Okay. No, I like
Fred
that.
VanVleet's
I
line.
like that. I like that. He's
Wow.
hardworking. Underdog story. Came from nothing.
Undrafted.
Yeah. Bet on the grind, man.
Anyway, we have basketball topics.
Oh yeah, back to basketball. I just wanted to talk about Fred a little bit because I just feel like that's
Yeah.
been part of the conversation the last couple days. And listen, unless they start, unless he starts making progress where it looks like he might be back for tomorrow or back for Game 7, we don't need to talk about this. But it would be interesting if they force a Game 7 and Fred is available. Like that would be very interesting.
Well, listen, the matchups are very good right now. I think the Raptors have really gotten the ability to put all this length on the floor. And Vivek, I was asking Blake about this yesterday. I'll ask you the same question. Like, if you had to envision some changes from Doc to try to counter this lineup or to find some success against this lineup, what do you think that adjustment's going to be?
Well, I think one of the things that I would look at if I was Doc was the way the non-Embiid minutes have trended, right? The Raptors have kind of regained control in those minutes, and that's where they're losing out a little bit. And early in the series, we saw that it was pretty much the other four starters, Harden, Maxey, Danny Green, Tobias Harris, with Paul Reed. But we haven't really seen that. And so why that hasn't been the case the last couple games is something only Doc can answer. So I think that's something that they have to go back to. And that's probably the main thing I would look to adjust. I think if you're Philly, reasonably, you don't panic too much. You try to do too much, then you really might let go of the rope here. But that has been Philly's problem. That has been, for those who believe that the Raptors could win this series coming in, it's because of the belief that when they get punched in the mouth, they will panic and that they won't really have a response. And we're seeing that a little bit, but at the end of the day, the Raptors are still trailing their series 3-2, and it's still win or go home tomorrow. Or stay home, rather.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But straight up, V, do you think the Raptors can win this series?
I think so. I think they believe it more than anything. And I think it's their approach that's the main thing. Obviously the 0-3 questions are really coming up now. And whether it's Gary, whether it's Chris Boucher, who was asked about it, they're looking at it as just one game at a time. And Nick Nurse said it as well. The message was to just go get one after 0-3. And the message right now is to still go get one. And I think that's something that really impresses me over the last two games as well, because this is such a young group. And sometimes you can see inexperienced players come out and almost really, swing for the home run and try to win 3 games in one game. That's not going to happen. We've seen them be very composed, very calm, understand the task at hand, and just say, hey, let's win one game. And that's the mission for tomorrow, win one game. So I do think deep down that stems from the fact that they just believe that they're the better team. And so, yeah, why not?
Yeah, and I was thinking about the messaging from Nick, right? And the specific challenge of managing this young team. I think first off for them, it's like, when you're down 3-0, there's not as much pressure on you, I think. Like you can play more free, and I think that's certainly helping with some of the younger guys. But I think the messaging from Nick Nurse has been on point. It's been on point all season. And when you consider it now, I'm thinking about so Nick in his short time with the Raptors as a head coach, down 1-0 against Orlando, they win 4 straight, they come back. Against Philadelphia, they're down 2-1. They come back, win the game in 7, or series in 7. Milwaukee, they're down 2-0. They come back, win 4 straight. Boston, they're down 2-0. They force a game 7. Unfortunately, Kyle fouls out. The Raptors can't fully get the last bucket, but literally a 1-possession game in game 7. And now Philly down 0-3. He forces game 6. And if they take game 6, he'll be forcing game 7. I mean, I don't know. What is it about Nick Nurse that just when you think you have him, he comes right back at you?
He's the master roper doper. I think after game 2, I tweeted out a stat because things were pretty negative even then at 0-2, that in games 1 and 2 in his short NBA playoff career, Nick Nurse has a record of 5-9, and games 3 through 7 at that point he had a record of 18-5. And now
man. He's the reverse Glenn Rivers. Oh, what you're telling me,
man. So you're telling me if you can combine first half of a series of Doc Rivers, and then substitute Nick Nurse for the second half, you go 16-0 in the playoffs.
Damn. Oh man, no, that's a great stat. Though. That's a great stat.
You throw in the 3 games that have happened since, and it's 20-6, right? And I think the adjustment that we were all expecting was how they played Harden, and you have to defend James Harden for the guy that he is now, not the MVP that he was in 2018. And when we talked about previewing the series, and I was on with you guys, I said after the series we could look back and view Harden as just being the 4th or 5th best player in the series, and people reacted like I was crazy. I mean, I think we're seeing it playing out.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, and I do think with regards to the question about Nick Nurse, like having watched the NBA playoffs since like 1947, like so many of these playoff series, like it's about just finding that kind of comfort zone. And the Raptors did not have that comfort zone in the first 2 games. They didn't even look like the Raptors. They were blown out of the gym. They had all these injuries that they had to deal with, and it wasn't until game 3 where they started to find their identity. But the thing is, like, once you find that identity and now you've really dominated this team for 3 games, it's on the other team to force you to adjust again. And I'm just honestly not sure. I know Will's, asked you about it, asked Blake about it yesterday. Like, how many moves, how many chess moves does, Doc Rivers really have for this Sixers team? Like, at the end of the day, I look at this team, they're very thin. Their best player is injured. Their second best player is playing like their 5th best player right now in James Harden. Tyrese Maxey has slowed down. And after that, there's just not a lot there. So at the end of the day, the Sixers are going to win in the same way that we talked about at the start of this series if their stars will carry them. If James Harden miraculously has a monster game tomorrow, once again, I'm going to take my speed cap in the radio booth and just tip it to the Sixers and congratulate them for winning the first round series. But as I'm sitting here right now, that's the reason for the optimism, is that I really don't know, like, what are the moves besides the fact that they need Embiid and Harden to have just monster games to carry them to the finish line.
And this is where I'll make the point again that I've made before, where I believe in the playoffs, depth matters. People will say, oh, you only play 7 guys, you only play 8 guys. But for me, it comes down to who you're playing. And when you have depth, you can make those necessary changes. So, for example, when we look back on the 2019 series where the Raptors play the Sixers and Fred VanVleet is really struggling, That's how you find an option in playing Serge Ibaka and going to the big lineup, right? And you're able to make that adjustment. When you go up against the Warriors and you're seeing Danny Green struggle, you say, okay, we're going to have Fred VanVleet start these second halves and give us what he's giving us. And so when you have those options, you can make changes. But when you look down the Sixers list, there's not that many options because they're also pretty one-dimensional, right? Georges Niang will come in and give you a three, but then he's hurting you on the other end of the floor. Matisse Thybulle, they're going to cheat off him on the offensive end every single time, right? The only basket he made was one that Precious put in for him. So I think that's what the Sixers have to contend with, and they don't really have options that can make a meaningful difference at this point. It's just about, hey, can you get Embiid somehow playing back to the level that he was those first 3 games? James Harden, can he find a way to get something going? Can Tyrese Maxey find what he had the first couple games? That's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah. Well, it feels very much like in this series, Nick Nurse said check, and Doc Rivers said king me.
No, it's playoffs is like playing big too, man. It just depends on, do you want to use your best cards first, or you want to wait couple rounds, couple games, and then you play your twos.
No, exactly. That's exactly what happened here. And on the subject of Doc Rivers, we have actually a breaking bit of news. He addressed the allegations about him always blowing 3-1 leads, and this was his comment to Sixers reporter when that was brought up at practice today.
Well, it's easy to use me as an example, but I wish y'all would tell the whole story with me, all right? My Orlando team is the 8th seed. No one gives me credit for getting up against the Pistons who won the title. That was an 8th seed. Go look at that. I want you to go back and look at that roster. I dare you to go back and look at that roster, and you would say, what a hell of a coaching job. Really. I mean, the Clipper team that we lost 3-1. Chris Paul didn't play in the first 2 games and was playing on one leg. And we didn't have home court. And then the last one, to me, is the one we blew. That's the one I said, we blew that. Now, it was in the bubble. And anything can happen in the bubble. There's no home court. Game 7 would have been in L.A., but it just happened. So I would say with me, some of them is I got to do better always. I always take my own responsibility. And then some of it is circumstances happen. This one, let's win it, and we don't have to talk about it.
Listen, man.
Do you think he gave that exact speech to the locker room? He's like, go back and look at my 2002 Orlando Magic, or whatever it was, 2004 Orlando Magic.
No, listen, it can't be fun to have to talk about this every single playoff run, because that is just the narrative.
It can't be fun to do it every
surrounding
playoff
Doc.
run.
But if you're gonna celebrate that 2008 championship with the Boston Celtics over and over again, then I think you should also have to acknowledge all of these other blown leads. And for me, it's like you can pick and choose, but it's like we've seen a track record of this, and it's not like fluky things have happened.
But Alex, tell the whole story. I mean, it was Corey Brewer and Josh Smith, who was leading the comeback there.
And listen, injuries happen all the time.
It was the bubble. I mean, come on, anything can happen in the bubble.
I don't want, if the Raptors lose this series, I don't want Nick Nurse to do the what ifs. I don't want Nick Nurse to sit there and say, hey, man, if we didn't pick up that injury in game 1, if Fred didn't pick up that injury, and if Gary was fine, again, it's fine. Tip the cap to them. You won this first round. This is a series that you're supposed to win. You're a championship contender. I don't want to hear any excuses.
Yeah. Vivek, I know you're familiar with this term because it's used, probably overused in soccer, but do you feel like the Raptors are mentality monsters?
Yeah, I think so. I think when you look at this team, there's just a swagger about them since 2018-19. And I think a big part of that is Nick Nurse's mantra, expect to win. They come into every game with that expectation. No matter who's available, who's out, they come in with a game plan. We've heard Thad Young talk about, hey, I came in here. These scouting reports are incredible. They do everything to prepare their guys to win. They believe in their players to develop. They see the big picture and what these players can be. They're willing to take the lumps. We saw that in the start to this season where things can look ugly, whether it's Precious Achua or Chris Boucher, and they will stick by their guys, believing that what they see big picture is going to work out, and that's when you see the second half turn around. And I think all of those things lead to them cutting this to 3-2. You look at their road performances this season, um, that big West Coast trip where they go undefeated. Those things happen because deep down you have a belief. I mean, listen, I think deep down they don't just think they can win the series. Like, I think they believe deep down that they can beat anyone.
Yep.
And that's why they just look at this next game and say, "Hey, we just got to focus on winning this next one."
Absolutely. Big V, Vivek Jacob. We're going to call you next Wednesday.
Yep.
Good time. Enjoy watching more Champions League. We ran out of time to discuss,
Yeah, goodbye, Vivek Jacob. We'll talk to you next week.
4-3. We're not going to discuss 4-3 City over. Anyway, yeah, Big V. Read all his work. Raptors.com. Catch him on CBC.
Catch you at the arena tomorrow, V.
Catch you at the arena. Catch you at Alouette.
Catch you at the arena.
Freshie for him.
Freshie for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is this goodbye taking 2 minutes?
Because we like V.
We love V, man.
Yeah.
V, enjoy
All
the
right,
rest
man.
of your day.
Take care, guys.
All right, take care. All right. It's time for our last break of the show. I'm your host, Wolu. That's Alex Wong. You're listening to The Raptors Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. Welcome back to the Raptors Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. I'm your host, Wolu. I'm joined in the final segment by True Hoops, David Thorpe. Coach Thorpe, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Coach, always a pleasure to speak with you. We'll get the Scotty stuff out of the way first because I think this playoff series between the Raptors and Sixers is also super intriguing, and I know you have a lot to say about it, and I've been consuming as much of the True Hoop content as possible. Always value your insight. But first off, this being a Toronto radio station, this being Scotty Barnes winning Rookie of the Year, I think everyone's curious to hear your thoughts on it because you have been – I remember, turning on draft podcasts at that time. It's been a while for me as a Raptor fan listening to draft podcasts. Usually when they're picking like 26th, 27th, I'm not listening as much. But when they got the fourth pick, I'm like, all right, let me just turn on a draft podcast. You with Chad Ford, and you said, I have Scotty Barnes number 2 on my board. And you said that, all these wonderful things about him. And it turns out after all these months that you're absolutely right about Scotty Barnes. So I would love to hear your thoughts on Scotty winning Rookie of the Year.
Well, I feel pretty good about Mobley, too. And I had Cunningham third, so those guys all deserved it. I really, honestly, was a coin flip between Mobley and Barnes. I think they're both just tremendous talents. I'm not sure I have any more fresh takes about Scotty. All I can say now is my son is home for a week or so. You may know he was a teammate of Scotty at Florida State, which is only meant I watched all of his games in every second. That's all. I never heard of the kid before, really. Not before my son visited the school as a senior in high school, and I don't follow high school stuff. And so I didn't pick any other of his teammates to be a number 2 guy. I thought he was incredible. And right now, for 30 minutes a day, I grab lunch from my office. I go to inside the house, and my son and I watch 30 minutes of the Magic Johnson Apple TV documentary. And we feel like we're looking at Scotty Barnes all over again. Not that he plays just like Magic. It's more of the incredibly infectious personality and the competitiveness. So, Magic had a better first year than Scotty in many respects. The league was different too, but I see a lot of similarities. And what that means is just buckle up, enjoy the ride. You got yourselves, Hall of Fame level talent. It's up to him to work hard to get there. It's up to the franchises that employ him, and maybe it's just going to be one and maybe not, to put him in great situations to continue to get better. But this is good fortune. The Grizzlies were lucky John Morant was in a draft that allowed him to go number 2, and many other drafts that had gone number 1. And so good fortune struck you guys too. And now just enjoy it because he's everything the NBA needs. And I think Toronto's a great fit for him. So it's a marriage made in heaven for the NBA anyway.
Yeah, listen, it was it's very funny we're talking about this because I remember we had you on over the course of the season, and I was asking you, well, a lot of fans want to know, Rookie of the Year, and you're like, stop worrying about Rookie of the Year. It's an award, but the more important thing is you have such a potentially special player in your hands. And I think to the point about Scotty, look, I think, I was thinking back to the podcast that we did together at Yahoo when you sort of introduced Scotty to the Toronto audience, which was awesome. And a lot of what you said came true. Is there something about Scotty that he's done in this year or something in his game that's also surprised you in a way of like, whoa, even after watching him so closely at Florida State, I didn't see this portion of his game?
Only one thing, and that would be he tempered down some of his enthusiasm in game. He was so incredibly joyous in college, sitting on the bench. Well, actually, the year he played, they almost never sat down because of COVID. They were so spread out. Guys stood up 3 rows apart from each other. It was just the weirdest thing when you look back and watch tape of that. But he didn't do that in the NBA. And if you know the Magic Johnson story, and by the way, he didn't win Rookie of the Year either. Let's remind you, Larry Bird did. Magic, celebrated his first ever win in October of 1979 by jumping into Kareem's arms, and Kareem kind of yelled at him. I watched the game on tape delay, by the way, that night. I was a huge Magic Johnson and Laker fan, and I was 14 years old. And Kareem had said, you can't do that. It's 81 more games. And Magic said, you keep hitting that shot. I will. But Kareem is right. And I felt like Scotty, from day one, I thought he didn't talk to refs as much as I thought he might. He didn't emote all that charisma as much as he might in game. It's too hard. In fact, I made this comment watching some of the games last night. I wish Pat Bev and John Morant and Karl Anthony Towns wouldn't, shush the crowd and do the too little thing. Just play basketball. It's hard. It's a hard game. think about your responsibilities in your next play or what you just did, as opposed to trying to make fun of the other team or talking to the fans. And I thought Scotty was really incredibly professional in that regard, and yet you still saw his personality. And since you and I have last talked, I've talked to even more people that have coached him for the NBA, like in pre-draft and stuff, and they all have the same stories that I witnessed. He's just this incredibly loud personality, but on the court, he's really locked in. It's a testament to the entire organization as well as to Scotty himself that he's learned already how to be a winner, because that's what it takes to win.
Absolutely. Now, I want to get your thoughts on the series in particular, and also, I guess, with Scotty in the series. So, game one, he comes 2 assists shy of the triple-double. Raptors lose. The defense was just not in place whatsoever in game one. The Raptors lose game 2. Scotty obviously wasn't available. Game 3 wasn't available. Game 4, he comes back, very hobbled, gets you 11 rebounds, 6 points, enough to get the win. And then I thought he was stepping up to the challenge a little bit more in game 5. And I think it's been really interesting watching this series because Fred had gone down with the hip flexor strain or something like that, right? So you're seeing Scotty having to play that point guard role, which is something that, he did in college and also at times in high school as well. How have you seen Scotty rise to that challenge, especially in the context of a playoff setting?
Well, shockingly, he was the only guy I thought that showed up for game 1 with a renewed edge to him. I thought that was the biggest mistake Toronto had in game 1 is, for whatever reason, there is a ratcheting up of intensity and energy and focus in these games, as there should. These are closer to the end kind of games, almost like existential games in a sense. That if you lose the series, you're done. And I didn't see that from Toronto. This is not abnormal. A few teams this year didn't bring that kind of energy the first game. We see this every year, and I thought Toronto was a victim of that. I thought they were going to be well positioned to play much, much better in game 2 and before he went down, even with Fred clearly being injured. And as someone who did pick the Raptors to win the series in 6, I don't know that I'd pick them if they were to get by this series the next round. I'm not a Raptors fan. Mm-hmm. I'm a fan of basketball and being right when I make my analysis. But I did pick them to win in this series. I thought Harden would not be a Superman, and I thought Philly kind of needed him. It turned out Maxey has been terrific in some of those games, in part because I think Fred is hobbled. And but I thought Scotty would eventually figure some stuff out. The injury set him back. I think Siakam has been the story as much as anything. And Precious has had his moments, of course. But I think Fred going out has just opened up the offense for Siakam to take over and have the ball in his hands early, have the ball in his hands late. I've been around a long time. And I tweeted about this the other day. The kind of the world always thinks they know something or someone, and they make some kind of long-term proclamation. Like, I literally remember I was already coaching when the word was Michael Jordan can't win a championship. He's just a scorer. Think about how nonsensical that is. But just it's in Sam Smith's book, The Jordan Rules, and many others. Like, this is what I don't know what's maybe the Jordan Rules, but some book that Sam wrote, he talked about that. He wrote about that. He did lots of articles about it. And Kevin Garnett wasn't good enough to win a ring. And Dirk Nowitzki could never win a ring because he's just a jump shooter, and on and on and on. We even heard that about LeBron after he lost to Dallas in his second finals, but his first with Miami. So I'm not buying this. Siakam can't be the number one guy. He's still growing as a player. Toronto should be as excited about him as they are about Scotty. The guy's an all-NBA level player, and very likely I think he's going to get third-team all-NBA this year, which would be a second such honor. I think he got second team once before. Yep. And so that, I think, is a big part of the story is his ability to just really take over. And then the length of the Raptors. They're not as tall, but they're so long, the way they've rallied to Embiid at the rim. And they've done a pretty good job on Harden, except for the fouls. And some of them are, maybe some not great calls. Some of them are Harden's genius, but too many of the fouls are just Toronto's fault. They just got to stop fouling them. Make them make shots at the rim. Do not foul. I would almost yank a guy every time he fouls James. Get him out of the game as a punishment. You can't foul this guy. Make him score 40 on the drive. And you can always adjust at halftime if you want to, or any time if you want. But you got to stop hammering him and force him to make tough shots. He has no lift at the rim. He can get by you off the dribble some, but he really has no lift at the rim. So I think if they clean some of that up and really kind of turn the Sixers into a one-man team, that man is good enough to beat you in Joel Embiid, but the odds are better for you And then you'll see how you feel going into Game 7, who's healthy and how everyone's going.
Yeah, well, first off, a lot of digest there. I think there's so many great points. Going back to the Pascal point, I mean, this is what we've seen in Games 4 and 5, and I thought Pascal was, to me, he looked like the best player on the floor in those 2 games, just based on how he performed. That's what we've seen from Pascal for like the last 3 months, 4 months of the season.
Right.
And of course, you don't always see regular season performances translating, but I didn't really see a reason for that not to translate. And I think going forward, you know, when Pascal has a fully healthy offseason and when he can, you know, come back next year, can we not sort of envision him as this sort of like prototypical star wing who does it all, defends most positions and can handle and set up the offense, can also finish for you, run the break for you, you know, play a little bit of 5 if you need to downsize, you know, play 1 if you want to go big. Like, isn't that just like essentially, you know, what you see from most modern stars nowadays is like these wing players, and can Pascal enter that conversation, you know, as early as next year?
I mean, that's it. That's got to be the plan. You're talking about a Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, LeBron James, Giannis.
Yeah.
You know, those. I mean, Giannis is a little bit different, obviously being a 7-footer, but he's different than everyone. That's exactly Jimmy Butler. That's where Pascal projects to. I thought that, I mean, all things considered, what happened last year with his injury, and they go back to the bubble year where he played well in the regular season, struggled in the bubble for lots of reasons. That was such a weird time as 2020, the pandemic and everything. But again, this guy's now done it twice. It's no fluke. You're exactly right. He finished the season like this for months. It wasn't weeks. It was months. And now against a relatively strong Philadelphia defense that doesn't have to worry about Fred and doesn't have to worry about Scotty until probably now. They'll probably game plan from a little bit more than they had because he looks pretty good now, Scotty does. So the teeth of the defense is thinking about Siakam, and it hasn't mattered. So this is, I mean, again, I've heard some people talking about, I've read some people talking about trading him. It's nonsensical. Who trades an all-NBA level player when your team finished the season the way it did and can get only better next season? There's no reason to think they won't be better next year. They got to do some things in free agency. I think there's lots of opportunities. But even some of their, I mean, again, Precious and Chris, those guys have all had their moments. I think you can build around that guy. And then you're talking about an MVP level player. We'll see if he makes that jump. But Siakam's at that point now where he has a chance to be on the team that's top 3 or 4 in the East, maybe top 2 or 3. And the best player on the team, you get to 25 points a game. You ascend back into high-level defensive player. This year I thought he was very good, but not elite. And now you're an MVP candidate. And that's absolutely possible for him. Maybe not likely, but I've heard he has an incredible work ethic. And how could you ever doubt a guy that's already accomplished what he's done?
Yeah, it's truly amazing just based on, I mean, it's funny because the Raptors are playing the Sixers, and the Sixers obviously went through that, the whole process and everything like that. The funny thing is just that year, the Sixers had 3 first-round draft picks because that's all they were trying to trade for was first-round picks. Took Ben Simmons number 1 overall, which no real issue with that. Obviously, Ben's career didn't really fully pan out for them. But they also took, I believe, Timothé Luwawu-Cabarrot, and also with the 26th pick took Furkan Korkmaz, and that allowed the Raptors to take Pascal 27th. No one could really envision back then Pascal could be this good, but so you got to give him a lot of credit. But it is kind of funny to think about within the context of the series. I also want to ask you about so the Raptors. You know, one of the reasons that's makes them really unique and really fun to watch is because of the fact that they got this lineup out there that forget the 6'9" lineups. It's also the fact that they have 5 guys on the floor who all have 7-foot plus wingspans. And I think this was going to be one of those like test case series of like, can it work? We're looking at an MVP candidate in Joel Embiid, one of the truly dominant centers in this league, him and Jokic. Can it work? And, you know, I guess that's still to be determined. We'll see what the results of the series are so far. But, Coach, I'll ask you, like, does this sort of further affirm the Raptors' vision of how they wanted to build this franchise?
I mean, I think that I don't know them. I've never talked to him about any one way to win. It just made sense based on their construct to go ahead and kind of double down on it. Just like, you know, the Pelicans have doubled down with big guys and the Celtics doubled down with playing 2 centers and ran the Nets out of although it was actually a very competitive series. They just won all 4 games, but it was the metrics showed it was very close. You got to pivot to what your talent is and what your roster looks like. So other teams may not want to do it. I'm writing an article at Troop right now where I'm projecting the Pelicans next year having 35 feet of wingspan on the court when they throw in Herb Jones with Zion and take out CJ. There's no reason why they can't have, with Jackson Hayes still playing with Valanciunas, you got 35 feet of wingspan, and the smallest guy is Zion at 6'7" and super powerful. So, I think that I've always thought this was where the direction the league was going, which is why it made no sense to me that people thought Jalen Suggs should go above Scotty Barnes. Nothing against small guys, but if you can get a lot of similar things done with much taller players, it just makes sense. And I feel like Toronto is, I think Nick Nurse has been able to play with some things with this group, and in the offseason, I think it'll really inform how he builds out his, design strategies for next year, and they should even be better with it.
Right, and I think one of the other pieces that has really emerged, fits the exact prototype of what the Raptors want, basically across all 5 positions, is also Precious Achiuwa, who I think his emergence from – I don't know how much Precious you saw at the start of the season, Coach, but I can just summarize by saying he was playing center and he was also shooting like below 40% on twos for like the first month, maybe even 2 months of the season. And to see his growth in Game 5, I know Joel was laboring and he's hurt and he's tired and everything like that, but to see him go at Joel Embiid repeatedly and Joel is a fantastic defender. But I think that also just shows like a lot of growth and maturity from Precious. What have you made of Precious Achiuwa's season so far this season? And also just him as a player. Obviously, he's also one of the guys for the Raptors where they always like to take guys who are slightly newer to basketball and then try to untap the potential. And I think we're starting to see that with Precious.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, I go back many years in Masai. I used to say, show me a guy that can really shoot and has bad mechanics, and that's a talent. Because we can clean his mechanics up to some degree and make him a really an elite shooter. He already has the ability to throw the ball in. So it's the same thing. You got guys that have found ways to be productive and yet don't really know how to play yet. That's a very, very good sign. I've been extremely impressed with Precious. His ability to play downhill with the ball, that isn't something a lot of bigs can do. He's obviously tough and long and strong. I felt like, I wrote this last week or 2 weeks ago now, that the Raptors could wear Embiid down and throw a lot of long, tall bodies at him and play fast. And I thought they should do that. They don't always do that. Sometimes they slow down also and try to grind things out a little bit. But that contrast has worked for them. And I mean, he's a key for what they want to do because, again, it's easier to find guards and wings that you can kind of steal some moments inside defensively. It's another thing to find true big men defensively, guys that can really fight down there and then also play out on the perimeter and not have it drop off. And he seems like he's a guy that's going to be able to do that. So, again, I don't know the young man and how hard he works. He certainly plays really hard. He's got a hell of an upside if he continues to work on his game and can be a perfect fit next to their core.
Yeah, and I was coming into work. I was listening to Monday's episode of Bring It In, and you guys had this discussion about sort of like the defenders who are the centers who are defensively succeeding in the playoffs so far. And obviously Atlanta went home, but I thought Onyeka Okongwu 2 years in a row has done really well defensively. Obviously Draymond Green has always been just elite generational level defender and everything like that. But it kind of struck me because there's also this conversation online, and people always argue between Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic, and these arguments get really toxic, and they're always like, well, Jokic is a bad defender because Steph Curry took him off the dribble, and now it's like, well, Embiid's a bad defender because Precious took him off the dribble. But I was thinking about it in terms of just like the endurance that it takes to play at a high level in the playoffs, and especially now with so much shooting on the floor, like, is being a 7-footer defensively and carrying that much weight almost a bit of a liability when you're thinking about in the modern game of what defensively is required of the center position?
Well, no, if they're in shape and you manage their minutes effectively. I think that those are the two best players along with Giannis in the world, all three are 7 feet tall. The idea, let's just be clear here, the idea that only big men might get taken off the drill by Steph Curry is ridiculous, right? It is very hard to guard the Cuisinart. That's what we call the Warriors offense, as you probably know. Mm-hmm. And Precious going downhill is kind of a scary thing for a defender. Embiid is absolutely an elite defender. Jokic is very good. We have metrics for a reason, and we have lots of metrics, and some of them overlap others. But if there's outliers on some, and then just kind of run of the mill on others, we have to factor that in. But Jokic was the best player in the league this year by every possible measure we would use. And many of those, not all, but many do factor in a healthy dose of defense. So I think that if you were lucky enough to have Jokic on your team, it would be absurd to say, well, no, we like to play 5 guards and wings. No, you take Jokic for sure, and you adjust. And same with Embiid. You would take them in a second if you could. But you can't. And so now you have to find ways to counteract them, and this is one of the ways I think is a wise way to do it if I was building a team. And I don't think I would ever have access to talent at that size in Jokic and Embiid. This is one of the ways that I would really consider pivoting. Is just really long, athletic guys that play super hard and are versatile athletes with the ball. It's different when they're not with the ball, but with the ball. And a disposition to defend, all the culture stuff, seeing the OG cry when Scotty got his Rookie of the Year award and just seeing the way they reacted. It's what you want, but I felt like it was genuine. And I saw Mikal Bridges last night say, playing with these guys is the best because they're my best friends. You don't always get that. And that's the goal, that you want to build that kind of culture to have that. And so far, anyway, it looks like Toronto, even when faced with being swept, seems that the culture teams like that tend not to get swept. They tend to do surprising things. That's the benefit of having a great culture. So again, a credit to everyone there who's done that, because they built a team that I think is going to last for a long time at a very high level.
Yeah, and listen, we got a minute here left, but I wanted to get your thoughts, because you did say about, in terms of moving forward in the team building strategy, if you were to see one thing that you would like to see the front office add to take them to that next level, because they have a lot of great pieces in place, what is that piece? What is that position, really, or what is that skill set that they might still be lacking that you want to?
I think they could find a 6'11", 7-foot big that can shoot. I don't think they want a Valanciunas. I think you'd want a guy that can space out the three, but also has all the other capabilities that can switch out into smaller guys if they want to switch. Can defend pick and roll and drop coverage. Can trap because he's mobile. Great culture guy, needs to be 26 or younger. There's no reason to get an old guy. Let him build with the team. I don't know that they'll get that. They may not want that. They may feel like they have that already. And Precious, I mean, obviously Chris is 29, he's older, but I think you have to have the sturdiness, the strength to be able to guard. Because I think teams are going to get bigger, not smaller.
Right.
I think I'm writing about this right now. I think we're going to start seeing more teams do what Boston did. And if there is a physical tax, if Toronto were to keep winning, there's a physical tax to this when you're playing smaller center guys to big guys. So I like the versatility of having a big guy that can play with them too.
All right, Coach Thorpe, appreciate you always taking the time to do this show. Again, every Raptor fan is already well aware, because not that you were the first one to discover Scotty Barnes or anything like that, but I think in this market, you were the first one to tell us he's special, and then we saw how special he was. So thanks for taking the time, and then for everyone, go out there and listen to the True Hoop podcast twice a week. And, make sure you also read all of Coach Thorpe's writing on, the True Hoop newsletter. So thank you, David.
Thanks. Be safe. Enjoy the game.
All right. That does it for us today. I'm your host, Will Lou. Alex Wong has just been sitting here next to me. There you go, Alex. He's still here holding the ball. And you've been listening to The Raptors Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. Make sure you find The Raptors Show wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe, and please rate and review our show. Again, if you're tuning live tomorrow, we will be on air from 10 a.m. to noon, all right? Not 1 to 3, 10 to 12. So thanks again to my producer and co-host, Alex Wong, to our guests, Matt Devlin, Vivek Jacob, and David Thorpe, our board producer, Derek Brandale, and Jennifer Ronick for helping us behind the scenes with the YouTube stream. I'll talk to you soon.